All right, great. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're back once again. Welcome to being part of the conversation. So glad for everyone who have been tuning in with us. So take the time, share the link with other people. Let's see if we can get started. We are live and alive. And just to prove that we are alive right now is Tuesday, the 16th of June, it's 6:50 p.m. All right, so it's good to see everybody connected on. Shout out to Mike Kaya and Chris, Mr. Crossley Sue, who's on the line. Mike Kaya Wilson is here as well. I'm Alistair Thompson. All right, we're just going to give people maybe a couple minutes to connect on as we get ready to start. All right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to share it to my page and stuff here now. So
yeah, same here.
Everybody could make sure. Right. Nice. All right, so it's another week, gents. How has the time from last week Tuesday to today has been for you guys?
So far, so good. So far, so good. Can't complain. Keeping the head straight, keeping the head above water, continuing to push forward. That's the main thing I could look at doing right now. Yeah. What about you, Mike?
Definitely, man. This week has been really nice, to be honest. Had a little bit of a bumpy weekend, but I mean that's all part of it, so I'm not making it an issue. But definitely coming out of last week's session, we had a lot of people, speaking about some of the points we gave, and it was really inspiring to see people actually put them into action. So that was really nice.
Oh, that's great, man.
That's true, man. I really appreciate that too.
I'm grateful for my barber. I'm grateful for being able to see my top lip again. Right? Because for a while I had to make sure it was there under all the mustache and everything. I was like, no. It was time to get rid of the caveman a little bit. So yeah. Q Styler, if you're tuned in, yeah, 15 seconds of fame there, buddy. Yeah. All right. So, guys, so this week we're looking at relationships, and I know in the description we talked about relationships in terms of people that were being home now with their spouses, full time for lockdown for 24 hours, right? And those that are in relationships but not living together, so you're separate, finding unique ways of keeping that romance there. But we also want to look at the other relationships that we were building probably online, reaching out to people that we would have normally had interaction with, and not just let it dissipate because all of a sudden everybody's inside. We can't meet up on a Friday anymore. So to kick it off, I want to ask you guys now. We're all married men. All right. Now usually we would work that 8 to 4, 9 to 5 roles. Well, Mike, I know you're flexible, but I know your wife used to work during the day. So now having to be home and like, hey, honey, I seen you. True. What was that experience like? Having to go from having a couple hours to being around them full time. What was that like for you guys?
To be honest, it was bliss, boy. It was bliss because as you guys would know, like my hours are normally really crazy. Very early in the morning, come back very late in the evening. So we only made a year February this year. And I mean, in that first year, I would have been working nonstop. Like I said, early mornings, sometimes leaving home at 4, sometimes 5, sometimes getting back in at 11 in the PM, right? And that would leave very little time sometimes for a lot of time for us to be together, but we would always make time even then to be together. So this dramatic change now where I was home and we were home together, for me it was really nice because I got to like be here for a longer period. And we really got to spend some really good time together. I really enjoyed it. Kind of, hoping that it will totally change, because it's really fun, I think, for me, being able to have I don't make it sound bad, but that much access to my wife. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel you on that. Feel you on that.
Yeah. So that's my take.
Yeah, I think from my end, I could understand where you're coming from in terms of it is a different environment, right?
Yeah.
I've been married for a little while myself, and I mean it's different because you're accustomed leaving home early in the morning, you do what you had to do, come back late in the night. So it was a change. I think during this particular time, there was certain areas that we had to relearn about each other because normally, I mean, both of us have our own career, business, whatever the case may be, and we'll be in and out, in and out. But once we're together, that prime time during the week, like for instance, habits of how she works, how I work, what's my environment in terms of how I work, her environment of how she works, and trying to actually do that adjustment and getting that because we actually had to share a room to be able to do our work. And that is a bit different in terms of sharing everything else. So I mean, sharing a space in terms of your work area, that's different, right? And I mean, slightly rocky, but I mean, after a couple of days, we really got into synergy in terms of what it is that we needed to do, how we getting it done. We made sure, especially with the kids, and we made sure we had a strict cutoff time at 12 p.m. You know what, we're going for lunch. We'll go downstairs, we eat together as a family, and then 1 o'clock, I resume work and everything like that. I think those little things people may think is insignificant, but once you start doing it, you realize it's the little things that count. And a simple thing as sitting as a family, having lunch, rekindling the relationship, not only with the wife, but also with the kids during the day, because I'm not there during the day, you know, in terms of schoolwork and these things like that. So that was a whole different shift in terms of relationship. You learn the strengths and the weaknesses, all of these things that I know how to step in and try to work accordingly. It wasn't easy, but I mean, so far so good.
Cool. I was actually going to ask because I know, apart from us, you actually have kids, right? You have children, so you know that added dynamic. Now you would think that all right, it's just husband and wife home. That's great, but when you have kids involved and their energy and they're accustomed being in school, eating habits, not being in your space during the day 24/7. Which is different from now where you actually have to homeschool, you know, find stuff for them to do otherwise, and that also takes from your time. So you don't have to kind of find a new way to handle time management in that sense.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, well, you cut your hair now, so I don't think you were pulling out your hair.
Nah.
Yeah. So, all right. So, what do you guys think now outside of the home now? We'd have had co-workers, clients, people that we'd have interacted, friends, you know, that we'd have interacted. Now, COVID put something in place where everybody had to kind of stay in their space. People were working from home. I know for a fact a lot of my friends who I usually would talk to, whether it's WhatsApp or whatnot, that kind of disappeared because everybody had to focus on actually working at home, working from home, and having deliverables for their job. So for me, I still would send the WhatsApp, the little notes periodically to try to keep in touch, you know, and when people free, they would call back. But how was it for you guys, or what do you see as, or did you all experience, I should actually say, anything of you sort in terms of your relationships with people that you would have dealt with in person, be it co-workers or friends or clients?
Nice. One of the things that realize is when it comes to connecting with people and everything, for some, it's like connecting like normal in terms of co-workers, especially ones that you are accustomed working with.
Right.
It's really, you know, the camaraderie and the connection in terms of talking and everything like that. And that communication, some of it remains the same. But others, you found that you realize that some people have a social media front versus a physical front in
Right.
terms of how they connect with people and how and you have to realize that you have to be honestly within this time. I realized that you need to be genuine when you're connecting with people. You have to be authentic. You have to be yourself. Some people, when it comes to their phone and the social media and everything, they put up a particular front, and sometimes they try to bring that front within this era right now of social distancing and how you have to carry about your work. And for persons who have been fronting like that for a while, it starts to show. The cracks start to show with respect to that. And it's extremely important that we be our authentic self, especially when it comes to relationship with people. Your authentic self helps because when you're authentic to yourself, there's people see, okay, this is who you are. They can like, dislike, whatever the case may be, but that is who you are. But if it is that you have to put one front for somebody like this, another front, it's hard to keep up like that when you're trying to put on a mask just to suit other people around the place. And it's very important, especially from a relational perspective, if you're going to be talking to clients, if it is going to be talking to co-workers, if it is going to be interacting with vendors, suppliers, whatever the case may be, is that you have to be very authentic in terms of how you carry about yourself, how you speak to people, and really having that particular dynamic in the play there. So as I said, I realized that during this time, you find that there were a good bit of people, you realize it was a mask that they were wearing on all this time. And even from that perspective, I mean, it goes down a whole different rabbit hole in terms of how people react to everything that's going on with them. So you realize it's really important in terms of being your true self when it comes to relationships.
Yeah. I really agree with that, because I think this COVID-19 period in lockdown really taught us that we're not always as connected as we think, you know, and there are a lot of things that we are allowed to be barriers to communication that aren't really. So, you know, normally on a daily basis, you tell somebody, you know, you're busy and work, whatever, you can't really talk, right? But then there are people who were either working from home, weren't working, you know, had a lot more free time, and they were still not communicating as much, you know. And I think that taught us a big lesson in terms of how honest we are about how much we communicate with each other, how honest we are about the types of relationships we have, and the quality of the relationships we have as well. I think if it's the most important thing was for me understanding the quality of your relationships and the types of people you have relationships with, you know, and sometimes what purpose you serve in the relationship, you know. I just want to give a heads up to guys, continue sending us your questions, any comments you want to leave. I'll be checking them here. The other panelists will be also checking it as well. So we'll be having a conversation directly with you guys. So if there's anything you want to say, want to add in, feel free to join the conversation, right? So no, I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm waiting for you guys to talk to us, right? So in addition to that, like I think from my perspective, I had to engage with my clients on a different level because I'm a people person in person, right? I like to meet people, talk to people, interact with people, you know, sense body language, you know, all these different things. And with this whole period, you have to do everything mostly either by the phone, via message. And I mean, I got to do a lot of my sessions via video calls and that kind of thing, but still it didn't give me that feeling, that connection. So it was a big difference, but I had to make the effort to ensure the connection felt the same, you know? So it kind of gave me an understanding of what we sometimes miss when we just send a quick message to somebody and we say we'll be checking in and there's no real substance to the conversation. There's no real communication going on, no real relationship, you know? It taught me that we need to do a lot more generally with our relationships when it comes to communication and when it comes to, you know, really and truly that back and forth, that rapport that we have with each other. Yeah.
Now, I want to build off of something that you said. Well, two things you said interesting there with communication. One, now there are times, well, according to the situation, sometimes I believe there's no conversation that needs to be had. Sometimes the person there with you just as support, knowing they're there sometimes is a lot. But that is
Right.
a thing that is specific to situations. But going back to something you said before, where you said we may not have been as connected as we thought. Do you think, no, this is what I consider this something that is a hindrance or a relationship killer of a sort. Do you think that a lot of times in relationships we have these unspoken expectations of each other, where we're in a relationship, we haven't said anything, but it's like we believe that this person is supposed to be reacting to us in a timely manner, in a certain way, always having our side in discussions, or always backing up our point of view, these kind of other things. Do you think that instead of, if we're thinking of it as not being connected as we thought we were, or is it that we as the person may have had unexpected, or sorry, not unexpected, unspoken expectations of that relationship that we didn't realize was there, or we put in the relationship?
I want to answer that question in a couple different ways, right? I will start with this. I think definitely that there are unspoken things that we don't communicate to each other in relationships that are necessary based on expectations, what we expect from the other person. And this is not just based upon marriages or a boyfriend and a girlfriend,
Yeah, in general.
but friends in general, even family. Right?
Family.
There are a lot of things that we expect but never speak. And that is very true for men mostly as well. Women
True.
are very vocal about what they want,
True.
how they want it, where they want it put, how they want it done, right? Most men will agree to that, but most men are not very vocal in what they want. And there are a couple of different reasons why. And there's also a couple of reasons why we don't always meet each other's expectations. I've been blessed to be able to have my parents be pastors and to see them counsel others, to have them counsel me, and to have them teach me about counseling others as well. Because as a young man growing up, people will always ask you questions because your parents are pastors, what do you think about this, what do you think about that, just to get your opinion. And I think it helped me to really and truly begin to think from different perspectives. And when it comes to relationships, one of the things I noticed and I want to pinpoint is that we all have different personality traits and we all have different characteristics and stuff like that. But sometimes, and I want to kind of not stray but bring this around, right? We sometimes approach a relationship from the beginning with a facade, right? We put on an image to get the person that we want to get, right? We put on this facade or image that we think will appeal to the right person, right? And it's very much a masked version of ourselves. So, for example, let's say our true color is blue,
right?
And because the blue is a very introverted person, it's a person that doesn't really speak loud. He doesn't do certain things. We don't want to get put in our box, so we put on a red, bold exterior. To make people think that this is who we are. We are this kind of person. And what happens is we then attract a person that likes that, which is another red person in that sense, another bold, strong-spoken person, strong-minded person. And when we come together, it's really and truly two opposites that coming together in a sense. Two people that their mannerisms, their behaviors, what they're expecting from each other doesn't meet. So you came in showing off that you're very opinionated and you speak out loud and you're this and that and the other. And the other person is the same, so they're thinking that you're going to be, you're going to speak and tell me what you want to do. But in fact, you're not really that person.
Correct.
Right? So when that happens, sometimes we have relationships where people are expected to do certain things because that's the image they portrayed in the beginning. But when they get to know each other, they realize that that's not really the kind of person you are. You know what I mean? I mean, I've met a lot of people, friends, clients, business partners, and in relationships and such, that after a couple months, couple years, you realize that I never was that kind of person,
Yeah.
And things that you would have done would have been annoying them, would have been bothering them, but they never would have said, because when you initially met, they portrayed themselves as a person that was this way. So now to go back and say, another way is like, it's a lie, is a image that they had to try to upkeep. And I think that's really dangerous relationships because
Very,
it puts us in a big disconnect,
very.
you know? So I think for my answer, that's how I see some of that happening, in that people don't always be honest in terms of who they really are. And for you to be the right person, you need to be yourself.
Mhm.
Amongst your friends, if you can't be yourself amongst your friends, those aren't really the right friends to have, right?
Correct.
So I think that not really and truly being honest and true to who you are could affect how we communicate what we really expecting from a relationship.
Correct. And I think there, um, people who don't speak up, there's a line that says, "What you accept is what you continue to get." One, and even if you want to say you were compromising for the sake of the relationship, um, sometimes what happens, because you don't say anything, there is this quiet resentment that builds towards that person, and at some point is either it explodes or you implode, and that is not healthy across any level, whether it's at home, relationship with your spouse, whether it's with a coworker or friend, family member. It is always better to speak and share, communicate that, hey, what you're doing here, I don't agree with. Yes, we may have joked about certain things, but when it gets serious, you know, is when we need to take things serious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I know, Alistair, I don't know what your thoughts on that.
I think I was leaning towards the latter part of the option I just spoke about, where you find persons portraying this particular spark or this particular wiring,
Right.
and it's really a disconnect with the other person. It's like a false wiring that you put in there, and it's not fair to the person that you're in a relationship with, and it's not fair to yourself
Correct.
to be putting up this facade. I mean,
Yeah.
if I had to put it in that particular way. It's only for
Yeah.
so long you can do that. All right. Some people are very skilled at being method actors and could hold a role for a particular while and they believe the rule. But
Right.
the truth and in fact, it's inevitable. The mask will have to come off. And you don't want that when that comes off, the other person in the relationship, whether it's your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, feels in a way cheated by what you have been doing. Basically, they will think that you have been living a lie. Now, some people might go to the whole extreme in terms of that. And yeah, you're right. Some people a lot of people put on their best self when they're starting off a relationship. All right. And some people, it'll just gradually go down. Some people, it'll go way down because, again, there's a motivation behind the relationship as well, too.
Yeah.
Some people
Definitely.
have selfish motivation when it comes to relationships. It's
Very true.
about what I want to get from myself, what I want to receive. And it's never about what we can do, how we can grow. And that is why you find a lot of times people ending up relationships breaking up, a number of schisms happening in between. Some people put on a mask for so long just to get what they want. And if they are disappointed, you always find them jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship.
Yeah.
Because again, some people, that is their I don't know what to call them. It's like serial relationship persons, I like to call them at times. They just go around, take what they could get and just move on to another person and just leave a whole set of heartbreak along the way. Unfortunately, at times, there are people who just gravitate to that kind of persona and that kind of relationship and get their heart broken as well too. All right, and I'm talking about men and women as well. Yeah, men is getting their heart broken too, you know.
Yeah.
We just up in
Definitely.
silence, unfortunately. Understand? But again, as we rightfully said from before, it's about being open and being able to trust the person in the relationship, to be able to be vulnerable with the person in the relationship itself. I mean, too many times people try to put on, especially men, we put this big wall at our right. We're in this relationship and we are in total control of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, things will happen, slip-ups will happen, trials will come. And if you're not able to really trust the person in the relationship that you're in, to be able to talk, I'm not just talking love, I'm talking trust.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to end up in some issues where you can't talk to that significant partner all about anything. You can love them how much you want, or at least you believe you love them how much you want. But if you don't have that trust to be totally truthful to them, don't care about the consequences, if it is a vex with you or whatever the case may be, coming in that relationship, then they're gonna have problems going down the line when you grow in that relationship, or at least the time passes within that relationship. I don't even want to say grow. It's just something that we have to be mindful of. That trust, very important when it comes to relationships.
No,
I want to kind of just sorry, go ahead.
No, you good.
I want to just kind of in something that you said just now, they kind of struck a nerve in the sense of like you said, that people go from relationship to relationship, and they in a sense plunder what they want and that kind of thing, right? I think that there's there's two things that happens that I've realized, right? Compatibility is something that we don't always take into consideration. Are we genuinely compatible with each other, right? And to be compatible is a lot of different things you need to check to see if two people or even friends are compatible with each other. And I'll tell you what I mean, right? There are times when people will be of different, they're not compatible with each other in the sense of, I'll give you an example of how it works. I think it's called individual compatibility, which means one person fits in the relationship better than the other, right? In that relationship, one person benefits more than the other, right? So if you was to imagine a square, right? And then you put a circle within that square. The circle will contact the square at 4 points, right? Now the circle is completely covered by the square. Yeah?
Right.
Completely absorbed by the square. But the square will have areas that are never touched by the circle.
Gaps, yeah.
Right? So there are gaps in terms of what one person is getting. One person can be totally fulfilled in the relationship.
Right.
Totally happy, totally satisfied. And the other person saying, why do I feel like if something missing? You know, like it's just not adding up for me. You know, and I feel as though this is what I want, but a lot of me being fulfilled, but not certain key parts. You know, and that's when compatibility kind of comes into play. Because we can't force those two objects to fit each other. There'll always be some areas missing. And I'm not saying that you have to be totally a mesh with the other person, because some of our differences make us a unique couple or a unique friendship or a unique family. But you have to be willing to sacrifice the things you're not getting for the ones you're getting. And then at the same time, there are some people who go into a relationship as a taker, as Alistair said, right? They're going in to receive, right? So their goal is to receive as much as possible in this relationship. And there are some people who are givers, right? They hardly ever seek out what is good for them. They seek out what's good for others.
Correct.
Now, when they get a taker meeting a giver, that relationship could be very nice or it could be very dangerous. You know? And that's with friendships, with business partnerships. Let's even say the work environment, right? You have one coworker who will gladly hold an extra shift for you, will gladly make some calls for you, do some emails for you, something. Whereas you now realize that they're doing that and will take advantage of it and be totally fine. You know, never considering they have to sit back later to get what you were supposed to get done.
Yeah.
And two people can be comfortable in that relationship, but eventually, like Alistair said, one person will begin to resent the other because they begin to see that something is missing in this relationship. You know? Yeah.
All right. Well, in talking about that, or one person doing more than the other, or somebody putting on a mask, that facade, can we call that a form of control? You know, their way of micromanaging, or to some extent, it's even manipulation, right? Especially if it's intentional, we can consider it to be manipulation. We know some people that do these things have a lot of narcissistic traits. You know, and they don't realize the poison that they're actually administering, sorry, to the relationship. Because what happens next is when that time period of control or that manipulation lifts and the person recognizes what happens, when they move on to a new relationship or any or whether it's work, home, or otherwise, anything that seems familiar to what just happened is going to
Definitely.
set off those triggers
The triggers, yeah.
and immediately put them back into the place of I need to be a little more reserved, protect myself, see what's going on. Let me see if this person
Yeah.
is really real or if this person is doing the same dance and pony show. We're not here for that this rounds. All right.
Mhm.
So I mean, we talked on certain topics. Now, the hard part with this is there are people living with this as we speak. There are
Yeah.
people going through
Yeah.
certain things that they would not have had to, and dealing with COVID and being home put them front and center and having to deal with these issues
Oh yeah.
directly. All right. And I mean, a lot of people probably, I'm praying, I know in the earlys with the lockdown, people were doing memes with the divorce rate and those kind of nonsense. And I am here hoping, I'm saying, I really hope people come together more in their relationship and it grew more than they bounced heads and realized that they didn't want to be together anymore and that sort of thing. I was really hoping that more relationships got stronger than grew apart. And I mean, in talking about that, because I mean, we talked about stuff that people dealt with. So what do you
Yeah.
think are some things that people could have done or should be doing right now for those that are still home, we're not fully back open yet, whether it's in Trinidad and Tobago or anybody else tuned in regionally or internationally? What are some of the things you guys believe people could be or should be doing to help save relationships and build it to be a little stronger?
I believe truthful dialogue needs to start taking place. Truthful, real dialogue. All right. I think a lot of times people try to pussyfoot around things that are happening around there. It's blatant that it has some things that are going wrong. Let's be frank. There are sometimes cases where things could be going wrong in a relationship, but no one wants to rock the boat because we have not had a confrontation, things have been going a particular way. We just want to rest it like that. But I believe that having dialogue is going to help along the way. Now, with if it is that is really loggerheads in terms of it, have a neutral third party involved. You see, when it comes to friends who just take your side no matter what, that is very poisonous in any kind of strong relationship that you want to have with a person. Meaning that you have, if it is that you want to have dialogue with somebody and you're not getting through, you wanna chat with this friend who will always take your side and is always this kind of bad advice.
Yeah.
And that and all is toxic as well too.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing, and I'm not saying that it's less important or more important, introspection is going to be is key as well too.
Yeah.
You need to look at yourself.
Correct.
And you need to look at who or what it is that you attract, what it is that you bring in terms of, or what it is that you attract in terms of relationship. Like, I know a particular guy. Oh my gosh, the pattern of young ladies that he is always have a particular track record. Let's just say I don't want to get into the details about it.
Yeah. That's another conversation.
Yeah. To be politically correct, uncalled for relationships. Right. But really and truly, if you really think about it, no matter where you go, there you are. So you need to look at yourself in terms of who it is that you attract. Because you may say, oh gosh, it have no good girls out there. I will let me correct you on that. You not getting good girls out there.
Yeah,
right? That's going to how to be played. Understand? And you find out people get a total disdain to relationships overall because it's saying it's everything out there. But sometimes you need to take responsibility for your own actions. Take responsibility for the kind of person that you are, what it is that you are trying, and what it is that you are drawn to as well. You know, it's just really a game to really have that real discussion and everything like that. And sometimes people need to look at themselves and then start talking to their partner or the person who they have a relationship with and start to remove the scales from their eyes. It starts with you in terms of doing that. That's just my take on it.
Nice.
That's definitely true. I love the way you put that across. Based on what you're asking, Chris, what people can do, right? I love the fact he said open, honest dialogue. I want to take it from two perspectives again. One for relationships being if it's husband and wife or whatnot, and one for being friends, family, you know, just associated people. I
Right.
think critical is the relationships at the level of husband and wife or those living together, because that has a impact that ripples down so far, you know, to other people, whether it be kids, if they get divorced, you know, these different things. There's so much that can be impacted by um, a broken home or a broken relationship. And I know we spoke about this a little while back, that a lot of people will be exposed to the real version of themselves and their partner during this lockdown period. You know, we don't get to see our entire, the entire persona or being when they're off to their job and we're off to our job. And we spend 8 hours or more apart and then come home for the remainder of the day and meet each other more or less when we're tired or when we're, you know, already ready to kind of settle in for the day. You know,
Correct.
so like I suppose someone last week and they were saying that there are pros and cons to working long days now
Yeah.
when it comes to
Right.
relationships. And I mean, I can understand when they say that some relationships need time apart and these different things. Everybody's relationship is different, but I think essentially what happens with this period where people are so contained together is that we begin to see each other for who we are, right? The
Mhm.
little things that come out, little cracks in the armor, little cracks in the facade will begin to come out. Even for the better side, we begin to see each other's vulnerability. We begin to see where we would have been missing or before in terms of, for example, um, for me, being out for the out number of hours I'm normally out, my wife and I normally share like our meal prep times, right? So on a Sunday evening, we normally meal prep for the first 3 days of the week, and then on the third day of the week, you know, we meal prep for the rest of the week,
Right.
right? But on the days when I miss that period because of work, she would cover it, right?
Right.
But remember, I'm out for most of the day, so I wouldn't see what her day, what her work day is normally like, how intense it would be, you know, that kind of thing. So being
Correct.
home, I got to see how much of a mental demand her job has on her. So when I'm here and I'm doing my stuff and she's doing her stuff and I see how much she has to do, it makes me realize sometimes how much she even sacrifices to make sure that I'm taken care of, you know?
Correct.
And
Correct.
it's important for us to see that sometimes as men,
Very true.
because men sometimes assume that women are number one, superwoman, and number two, a replica of their mom, right?
I don't know where they get that from. I always wonder what book they read, but yeah, continue.
So men think for some reason that when they get married, exactly what their mother did for them, their wife is going to do for
Madness.
them the same thing.
Madness. I don't know
Um,
why.
yeah, it's. I think the good thing for me was my mom always told me that I should never have my wife doing everything, right? Because my dad never did that. My dad was the type that would be coming home from work, put on his bag. He didn't go and shower yet. He'll go straight in the kitchen, wash his cook, right? And it gave my mama opportunity to do other things and have that shared responsibility for the house.
Correct.
And that's something I had to make sure I carried over into my marriage, my relationship, because during this period of time, I saw how critical it was for me to actually do that. You understand? Because you begin to see the little things we as men do, right? You come from work, you may be a little tired, you may do something that drop your bag here, in your mind, you're coming back to it. But what we don't see is that she would have cleaned up before we got home, right? And the floor was clear. So you putting something in the middle of a clean floor to her is like, I
What are you
guess,
doing?
you know?
What's
And
wrong with
sometimes
you?
men get so tense about these things, not realizing that that is actually a source of stress, a stress that we can put
Frustration.
in on
Yeah.
our significant
Correct.
other.
Yeah.
And I think for men who are real with themselves and honest with themselves, they would have realized how would they fall short on a regular basis during the normal period of our lives with work being the normal 8 to 4 and whatever else. How much we expect of our wives, how
Yeah.
much we take for granted sometimes what they sacrifice to get done, what we expect them to get done.
Correct.
In reverse of that, however, I'm hoping that a lot of women got to see how much men normally do in their jobs, right? What normally is the activities that they take on, and that there's some level of equality in terms of what the burdens we have to carry when it comes to our careers, when it comes to dealing with similar situations. Women will deal with conflict on work, men deal with conflict on work, right? We're not immune to that, you know. We have stress, they have stress, and I'm hoping that a lot of men and women got to see both sides of that coin to understand that we need to come together rather than comparing and saying, well, my job is more stressful than yours, and these kind of things, because those things would really actually break down a relationship. Trying to find a high point for me and a low point for you will
Mhm.
literally break down a relationship rather than saying, here what, I see the stress you have and I see where your needs are. Let me fill
Right.
that need, and vice versa. I think those things are what cause us to really and truly begin to see, where we would have been missing before,
Right.
and create that bridge for those gaps. I'm really hoping that happened during this COVID-19 lockdown period.
Right.
But like I said, Chris, I think that sadly there would have been a lot of people coming to the realization that, yo, I don't
That's
think you
all
and I
it is.
meshing the
Yeah.
way you
We
thought
thought.
you was meshing. Seeing it for 6 hours was good, but seeing it for 24, woo,
Yeah. Right.
and
It is do some little
they
things.
yeah. Like I was speaking to a guy, and right before the lockdown period, he and his then girlfriend,
Yeah.
right, moved in together, right?
Okay.
They moved in together, and I think in his mind he always saw that he was a really good person in the house. Like it was his apartment. He thought he used to keep things really nice and
To
put together,
himself.
and he had a nice structure.
Mm.
And when she came in, obviously she brought in her ways of doing things as well.
Correct.
And I don't think they ever got a chance to really actually find a way together, right? So like my wife and I, we've been finding our way together of doing things. So my way and her way comes together and creates our way, right? But I think for them, they never got to figure that out because getting locked down and put together for 24 hours non-stop.
Hmm.
Like he began telling me like, dude, nah, boy.
She need to go
I
home,
don't
boy.
think she doing that I can't stand. And then he's saying that she just nitpicking, and I was like, dude, you're not necessarily the best, like at doing
That's
anything
it.
you think you're doing now, boy. You know what I mean? And it was a moment when they could have been honest with each other and
Right.
build their relationship, but instead they just was like, you know what? But we call it quits here. You go back home, I go back. I stay here, and you can do it that way. You know? I mean, it could be for good, but people would have gotten that realization too. You know what I mean?
That's true. And I actually want to build off of that last example you shared. Um, Especially seeing that for us, we are newly married. And so when you now
Yeah.
start living with someone, there is something I think people don't do to ensure that there's cohesiveness in that cohabitation. And that's having patience with each other.
Yeah.
Allowing that time for that person to grow into the space that you all are now sharing together, allowing the person the time to learn you as much as you're learning them,
Oh yeah.
so that
Yeah.
you're not clashing, but you're experiencing what they like, what they need, what they require of you as well to cooperate and run the household. And a lot of people and a lot of relationships, people need to have that patience, to allow the person to grow into that space with you. Instead of you
Yeah.
just being stuck in your habits and being like, well, I'm not used to that, I accustomed doing this, my thing, I just watch this show a certain time and little minuscule things that should be overlooked
Adam.
because it's a habit people tend to flare up for,
Yeah,
right?
true.
All right. So, and outside of patience, something critical, I believe, is listening. Listening to your partner, listening to anyone you're living with, that relationship you have there within that household. You need to listen more, not just hear what people are saying. Listen, because sometimes
Yeah,
you listen and they may say something and you realize in what they said, how they said, it may have been something they were experiencing in the past that's affecting them still. Something that they've been trying to communicate for you for so long, but you weren't open-minded enough
yeah,
to, because you saw your way as the only correct way. And you didn't realize that no, you have to be open minded to what that person is sharing. It does not mean that your way is wrong.
true, true.
That is what a lot of people get incorrect. They instantly think that maybe okay, that person is right. It doesn't mean that what you're saying is wrong or what they're saying is the gospel truth, but you have to be open minded into seeing that point of view from the person.
Yeah,
If you're not open to that, then once again, as I said, we'll have to have another conversation, right? Now, another point would be working from home. You both have responsibilities, whether it's to your job or your business. And one thing, even for co-workers and whatnot, you see consideration of people's time, consideration of what people doing, um, the availability that they have at that point in time. You have to respect that. You have to be considerate of what they are doing during the day. They have to be focused. It's not about QT quality time because we home together. No, right? It's about, hey, this person has to work. I remember there was a day my wife saw exactly how many calls I took during a day and this stuff that she heard me speaking with the people on the phone and business and stuff like that. And at the end, she was like, this is how your day is be every day? I was like, not every day, but often. She's like, wow. So for her, she finally saw that, hey, I gotta be, if Chris is doing certain things, I'm considerate of that. And then within that now, we're gonna talk about um, holding space in the sense where we are still individuals.
yeah,
People just need their alone time. People just need that time where they can do what they enjoy. And so we're looking at consideration and then our consideration of people's space, whether it's mental space or physical space. You have to give that person that time so they can deal with stuff. Because I mean, we're all dealing with COVID-19 and some people loss of jobs, some people decrease in salaries, some people business got slow,
yeah,
some people
yeah,
relationships gone haywire. So they are dealing with all these things inside of them. They're not saying it, but guess what? On a day, they might just need to spend 10 minutes alone reading a book. They may plug in their headphones and listen to music. It doesn't mean anything is wrong with them. It doesn't mean they have a problem or anything like that. It just means, hey, this is my time out.
yeah,
This is me taking that space. So coming back from the top, we're talking about patience, listening more, being more open-minded, being considerate of people's, availability and stuff that they do, and respecting their space, being mentally or physically, because we
yeah,
need to give that person that. So maintaining a relationship during this time where we might have just thought, well, hey, we home, we working from home, boom, we
fun and
GT
games.
to, oh gosh, love up time. It's not the same for everybody. It's not, and that's just the
Yeah.
truth. That is just the truth. So I mean, I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to add to that.
I just wanna
Mhm.
jump onto some of the questions that people have been asking.
Oh yes, great.
Now
Yeah.
before I get into the question though, I just want to encourage everybody who's online. Number one, we're talking about relationships, all types of relationships. Please join the conversation, chat with us. Let's answer your questions. You ask us, you put your opinion, then we'll read it out and share it as well. right? We have one question coming in here that asks, would you say that persons focus on their home during this time and may not have regarded relationships outside the home to be as important? So basically the question is, do we think people would have closed in and worked on the home relationships and not thought of the relationships outside as being as important? Do we think that happened, guys?
I want to say for some people, or I
Yeah,
should
for
say
sure.
friends that I've observed, right? A lot, it was a half and half for me, where I saw there were people that pulled to what they had at home, focusing on work, their spouse, their family, their kids, their children, their parents. And then there were those that were still plugged in. They were always on WhatsApp. They were doing the world of TikTok challenges. They were, trying to still be out there, even though
Yeah.
they're home.
Mhm.
Granted, yes, they may have been, experiencing that cabin fever and bouncing off the walls, but I don't want to think that people solely focused on what they had home completely. Like I said, for me, from my observation, people were still half and half.
Yeah.
Right.
I think being able to continue opening up relationships, not just at home but outside, is healthy. Right? Just trying to stick within home. Yes, it may have certain things that you may want to explore and tweak and everything from home, which is fine. But it's good to have a balance with respect to relationships and being able to still communicate with persons outside your physical home. You have friends who you may not have been chatting with for a long time. You may rekindle certain discussions, rekindle certain friendships that you have with people, maintain some of the existing friendships that you have with people, and restore the home in terms of the relationships that you have at home. One of the things that I wanted us to add with respect to even the relationship at home is something I call vocal appreciation.
All right.
I
Yeah.
believe in vocal appreciation. Let the person who you're home with know how you feel about them and that you appreciate them. Right?
Sure.
I started, but I started. I've done it a lot since I've been home, not just to my wife, but to my children as well. They need to hear that you don't know what could happen in this world, and sometimes you need to tell them these. And it doesn't have to be a special occasion where it have to be birthday or anniversary or any kind of thing like that to be able to let them know, I appreciate what you're doing. I like what you're doing here. Or I don't like what you're doing here. But here what we work, all of these things like that, it really helps in terms of growing a relationship. Right? One of the things that we have to remember as well too, and this is from my 15 years of being married, we are constantly evolving. We are constantly evolving. Don't expect that the person we married how many years ago is going to be the exact same person today. I think sometimes people just have that misconception at times and think that the person has to say exactly the same. That is the person who I fell in love with. But like you are growing, and that person's also growing as well. Both of you all are experiencing new things together, and you all will be experiencing new things individually, and you all will be going through changes. It happens. It's inevitable. The question is how you all move with each other while you change. And to understand that here, what people change, people grow. All right. And it's about really growing together, changing together, and building together. And if you don't have that and you don't understand the fact that persons, your person or the significant other, those at home are evolving as they grow, you're gonna have problems. You're gonna definitely have problems in a relationship. So even with friends, your friends grow as well too. This person who would have been your partner way back in the day, they are not the exact same person that they were 20 years ago. Some of the
Yeah.
foundation, yes, but because of the life experiences and everything that they go through, they are not the same person.
Yeah.
You may not have gone through those life experiences with them. And so that's some of the things that we need to be able to be mindful of, especially in a relationship. People evolve in relationships. That's just my thoughts on it. What do you all think about that?
I wanna kind of poke at something that you said at the beginning. That vocal appreciation. Now, I am a person where I personally don't do things for somebody to say great job. So for
Correct.
me, I don't really need it. And I don't like feeling like
Mm.
I've been over patronized in some kind of way, or people are saying it just because they believe they should say it.
Mhm.
So I think even in that regards, know the person. As you're in a relationship with them, know the person. There are some
Mhm.
people that need that because they not need it. They use that as like not a song to business, like key performance indicators. They use that to see where, okay, I have been doing this and it's good. I feel good knowing that the person appreciated. I feel good knowing that they get the thumbs up. But then like me, I don't really need that. I don't really care for it.
Mhm.
For me, but that's me as a person. Because for me, I
Right.
am
Yeah.
doing things because I want to do it. And it may be to help somebody or may just be a general doing, but it has never been for the person to come back to say, hey, great job. That for me, that means it means nothing. It's not that I have to hear it.
Right.
True, true.
Right.
So I still
It's not
say
any
to
business
some
of
extent,
mine.
know the person you're with to know so they wouldn't feel like you're as we say here, your mama guy in them,
Correct.
in
Correct.
that
Yeah.
kind of way.
Yeah.
So I just wanted
And
to
that's how I
poke
mean.
at that.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I was going on that line, but I understand where you're coming from with that one.
Yeah. No, I understand what you meant, but just to be
Mhm.
clear, just to clarify, because I know people listening, different minds and different ears will be
Right.
hearing right now. So
True.
it's I just
All
wanted
right.
to
So
touch on that, just to have that.
I have another question. This one came in. Now, guys, again, you can send your questions either on the live itself or even before the live comes on. You can inbox us on our mantle page to give us some of your questions, right? Or message us individually. That's fine as well, right? One of the questions that came in is, do we think it's healthy for family or spouses to be in business together?
All right. I say want to go first, or you want me to go first? Okay.
That's a
What's
loaded
going on?
question, you know.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. What's going on with this question here? Now,
Yeah.
you can, when there's business, especially doing business with family, people get into that comfortable space. But you do have to remember the person at home and business may not be the same person. Like
Right.
for me, once I'm doing business, I am strict. I am focused. I am not kicking off. I don't I like my time to be allotted to what I'm doing. And I tend to like people around me doing the same, right? Especially when I'm doing business. So family members might think it's comfortable, we'll be relaxed, we will talking, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, yo, I really wish these people were working. So you have to be very careful how you manage the person at home and then the person who is your business partner. You know for sure you have to have more open conversations about the way they may be speaking, acting, interacting with you, clients, co-workers
Mhm.
when it comes to your business. Because then when you get at home, you don't want to reach home and you're still feeling upset over something that happened at the business or dealing with business.
Exactly. Very true.
You,
Yeah.
you don't want to carry that over. So you do have to manage that space in terms of when we're in work, this is how we are. When we're at home, business drops. That is something completely. Don't bring whatever we had home there here. All right. That is like basically, you know,
Yeah.
something you don't do because you will actually be destroying your personal relationship because of business.
Right.
And that shouldn't be a factor because now for sure, like I said, you have to have more open dialogue, honest
That's
dialogue,
exactly the point I was making.
right?
The dialogue is
And don't be afraid to say the hard hitting things like, hey,
Mhm.
you're on your phone too much. Hey, you haven't responded to that email yet, the client waiting. Hey, you're distracted during the day, X, Y, and Z. So yes, you can be in business with family, but you do have to manage the relationship even more strictly.
True. That is so true.
I think
I'm glad I brought on that point there. I mean, what do you take on that, Micah?
I agree. When I look at it, right, I'll give you an example of for me, my wife and I, um, we operate two businesses together, and for both businesses, we have our roles and our duties as to what we are in each business, right?
Defined, yes.
And that needs to happen from the beginning, because sometimes we could let no, we are husband and wife, but there are also families where it's brothers and sisters, or it's mother and father, or it's mother and son, whatever else. Um, the dynamic of your role in your business supersedes your position in your household when you're on your job, when you're working. So, for example, working with your parents, for example, it may be your mom or your dad, but if you are the owner of the company, you are the owner of the company, right? And those rules need to be respected, because when you set those rules in place, those rules are meant to keep things in a proper working order and flow, so that
Correct.
it doesn't hamper or affect other parts of the relationship, right? So stating clear rules for each other is very important, right? Number two, answering the general question, if I think it's healthy, I think it could be very healthy, especially when it's something that feeds both parties, right? If one person is just a silent entity in the business and they're not feeling rewarded from it, they're not feeling as though they have a part to play, they can begin to feel very disconnected, and it could be very bad for them, right? But if it's something that really and truly nurtures both parties and they play a part each, it may have one may have a more important role, or a bigger role, sorry. One may have a smaller role, but they feel accomplished and fulfilled by doing those roles. It could really and truly add to the dynamic of a relationship, right? It could add to even some of your fulfillment as a couple as well. There are many power couples in the world right now that operate businesses together, and a big part of why they succeed is because they have a good relationship on and off the court, right?
Yeah,
Um,
correct.
there are some that could be like Shaq and Kobe. Back in the days of the Lakers in the earlys, when Shaq and Kobe wasn't really best friends off the court, but on the court, they're putting the beating on people, right? It
Correct.
was working then. But off the court, you will see the different little issues. Eventually, those issues will spill onto the court. So I think it's really important for us to, like I said, guys, have the conversations, open communication, but also respect whatever position that other person has in the business, and don't bring your personal life issues into that, right? If you and your husband fall at home and you'll have a physical workplace to go to with staff, don't go and treat him like if you're vexed with him because of what happened home. You
Right.
know, vice versa. If you and your wife fall out, and or you fall out of a decision that's made in work, don't come home and hold it against her because you're vexed about the work. You know, separate the two. Because if the business goes belly up today or tomorrow, the marriage should still remain,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
That should always be a key part of your thinking. It should never be the other way around. It should never be that the business should succeed in the marriage field. I don't believe in that part. I believe that your life with your partner should be very significant and important to you. And I think once you nurture that enough, the business will begin to flourish as well. Yeah.
Right.
Right. I think someone just asked there,
Yeah.
just to add on to the same question I had in terms of different people, different mindset. How do you maintain relationship in business? I think it's along that line that you started to talk about there, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About people,
I will
different
kind of,
mindset there.
and I'll share an example as well, right? My wife and I,
Good. Yeah.
we complement each other very well, but where I am not the strongest, that's her strength. Where she is not the strongest, that's my strength. So it complements each other in that way, right? Our personalities as well. I'm a people person. I jump at opportunities. I go to people. I talk. I think. I try to make things work quick as possible. She's very calculating,
Right.
right? She likes to manage risk a lot. So where I may see that as being very um, pessimistic and trying to delay, I have to understand it's important to manage risk. You know, so somebody might see her her behavior as being negative. But if I was to understand the importance of it to the business, then I'll realize how much it's benefited me to not make bad decisions. Likewise, there may be times where we need to act now, and she may want to overcalculate. And she will say, you know what? Well, let me go because, we need to move now. So we complement each other in that way. But those are different personality traits,
Correct.
right? That we then begin to use as tools in the business. And that's what some couples don't do. They see them as only negatives and not as tools they can use to map strengths and weaknesses. So I think for every couple that is in business together, you need to do like a SWOT analysis of your relationship and your business to see exactly as individuals where your weaknesses are and see where the other person complements your weakness and builds your and strengthens you in that area. Because most likely that's a natural occurrence in relationships, right? And I think once you do that, the different personalities are easier to deal with. The different mindsets are easier to deal with because you understand where they're coming from. You understand that the person that is very detail oriented as opposed to the person who have organized chaos, right?
Mhm.
You understand why it's important to put figures in the right place when you're dealing with your budget. Because when you go to the
Yeah.
bank, you need to see your figures in a particular way, right? There's a person that just pushes receipts into a box and never checks them, and at the end of the year, all the receipts faded out. Whereas there's the other person who will take each receipt, put them into a spreadsheet at the end of every week, and have it fully written out because they like to see everything in
Yeah,
front of them
recorded,
in detail.
recorded. Yeah.
So these two personalities could very well clash, and they could have a very big, issue, but they could also very well complement each other as well. So I think once we could identify the strength in the personality, we could then find a way to make it actually fit and build the business as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
Right.
All right, go ahead, Alistair. Go ahead.
no, and you're right, and it's also to be open to the strengths as well and to accept it. You're not going to be good at every single thing. All right. And this, especially for couples who have to work together in a business, you are not going to be good in every single thing. You may think so, but that's not the truth. You need to realize that for yourself. All right. You have to remember, again, a relationship, you are constantly growing together. Going into a business together, this is a different venture. A lot of times people do it and drop the ball in it. And have a lot of people do it and really succeed at it. But it's about being able to accept the differences and to be able to learn each other's strengths. Don't just assume this is the person's strength or assume this is the person's weakness. Again, that's why dialogue is going to be extremely important. Very important, especially when it comes to going into business together. Yeah, Chris.
Right. Now, what I was about to say, now this is maybe a very stoic answer as well. People need to remember that everyone's at different personal development levels.
Correct.
People are learning and growing themselves at different paces. And where you may understand certain things, where they are still, immature, or actually I shouldn't say immature, where they are at their level, because that would be you. If I say immature, that would be you casting judgment on where they are. And we don't want that. You want it to be an understanding where, hey, this person is at this space right now. It's not for me to judge. It's not for me to try to correct them or think. We're just going to exchange opinions. If the person is open-minded to listening to what I have to say and they adjust, great. If it is they share their opinion, I see there is some validity in what they're saying, there's something that I could take checkpoint from as well, then that's great. But it's not about managing the other person. It's not about micromanaging the other person. It's not about being a tone police. It's not about control. It's about the fact that you are managing your relationship and not the person. And you're not casting judgment on where they are in their growth. Right?
That's true.
I actually have a question, and I want this to be the last question because we're running a little over the time. This one is going to be a little interesting. That's as well.
But guys, I think we should if we could probably just push a little longer today. We have a couple of people who are still putting in questions.
Well, we could push
and
a little longer.
A little bit more,
because we really over the time.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I'll ask this question. Do you all think that friends each person had before marriage should become friends of your spouse also, or should they maintain those individual relationships? I'll read it again. Do you all think that friends each person had before marriage should become friends of your spouse also, or should they maintain those individual relationships?
I think we should let Alice answer first, seeing that he has the most years in this game. So he's gone through enough to know more than we will know immediately. So you can jump in first.
I have a very big answer for that, but I'll wait. So I'll ask. Go ahead.
All right. Okay.
I hope I didn't set you up.
No. I didn't set me up in terms of that. I have no problems in terms of introducing my friends to my wife. I do not go in with any expectations that if I introduce them, well, they'll have to be friends. That may not necessarily be the case. It may happen that, okay, the introduction there, that's fine, she know the person, but because I don't think I want a relationship with that person or to carry on anything. Or it may be, hey, this person real good, we could go online, we could go and do all of these things like that. And that's also fine. And again, you remember sometimes you're at a different area in your life as well too. Because I remember I have instances where there was a time that I was not married. All right. So I would have had some single friends who I would have lined with and everything like that. And honestly, I'm in a different space right now. They are in a different space right now. And it's not that we are ill against each other or anything, but we have grown apart. We have grown apart in terms of it. So, I mean, if we have grown apart, much less for me just to introduce my wife or my children to you like that. We have to maybe rekindle, or maybe that was just for a season. All right. That friendship or whatever was for a season. And that would have gone apart there. But again, as I say, yeah, I could introduce, and it's up to my wife and to the table. Yeah, I'm gonna chat with it or no, like that is your partner, boy. You serious? Right? What they have in common, you know? But again, that is your friend. You could continue that relationship as the case may be, and that's fine. At least you know personals. And that could work for me. At least that has worked for me. You know the personals, it's up to you if you want to be friends with them. But we have been friends, it's a different our relationship is a different kind of relationship. It's not the way that we have our relationship. So it's not for my significant other to try to mold this relationship or how she think I'm supposed to be with this friend. And that's not going to be the case. It's just about being real. Chris, you want to take this one?
All right. Now, before I answer, I wanted to drop this soundbite. The views of Mr. Crossley, sir, is not the views of the Mantle Movement. Right? Here's my thing with that. I don't consider my wife's friends my friends. No. They are associates of mine. They're my wife's friends.
Right.
They're not my friends. We are good. We will respect each other. If you say hello to me in the street, I will not ignore you and pass you like a full sugar on us bus. I will still greet you and be mannerly and be courteous, because that's my nature, right? But I don't consider them my friends, or do I try to put myself as their friends either, because I think there needs to be that respect line. There needs to be that place where people don't get too comfortable, right? Now, any relationships that we have built between our friends or people that we knew before, it has been mutual because it's adults that are also married. It's not where it's a single male or a single female that is just the friend that's around or the friend that's becoming a friend of the couple. So for me, there needs to be that respect line, that boundary that keeps people knowing, well, look, together we're good, we're hanging out or whatever. But guess what? I ain't your friend. I am to you, I am your friend, I am your associate. Don't think we're buddies. No. I have a very, very big problem with that. No, I would introduce my partners to my wife for protection. So if she goes anywhere and there's any issues, they would not hesitate. They would know how to mobilize accordingly and then alert me first into what's going on. And that is what I use certain brethren for.
But is that the only reason for introducing them?
Most times, yes. Because I've had experiences where male friends got attracted to girlfriends I had. And I had to draw the broadsword real quick. Because why? People got too comfortable in trying to have conversations thinking everybody is friends. And it happened more than once. But then they understand that Christopher's other name is Hannibal. You dig? So for me, introduction is fine. For me, hanging out is fine. For me, having the relationship that you all had before is fine, as long as that boundary is respected, that that person is no longer single and that person is now in a relationship. So whereas the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock conversations may have happened before marriage, that shit done. I already don't talk to people. My phone just ring and I just jump. Right? So for me, I kind of real strict, but like I said, that's me. Because I rather not have any mixed communications, any question marks, any unspoken or wondering or drama that somebody might be having. Zero. So somebody could also say, hey, I see Chris talking to so-and-so by so-and-so. And automatically they will know that person talking crap. Because Chris lives by what he says. That line is defined so thick. So for me, like I said, you can still be friends, we can hang out, whatever, but that boundary, that respect, don't cross it, because you will get removed as a friend real quick.
And I believe that is important in terms of boundaries being set, especially with friendships and everything like that. And I believe friendships, when it comes to association, that has to take time to build as well. It's not just automatic. You don't just give away a friendship like that. So, I mean, it has to have trust, relationships have to be built. So it's not just, well, this is my wife friend, so it's automatically my friend. That may not be the case.
No.
Again, a relationship has to be built. It has to talk, everything like that. You don't just jump in, anything like that. So it's always important, as I said, in terms of building relationship, it starts from the ground up. Nobody is building roof first. It starts with the foundation.
Correct.
They don't just build the roof first for the purpose of shelter. Because things will just fall apart with respect to that. And I believe that is the whole thing about friendship as well too. Friendship is something that I had to build from the ground up. And it takes time to build a foundation. Don't just start to ask for certain things and have these things happening like that. You're right. There is a line that is drawn when it comes to relationships as they grow along.
Yeah.
But relationship is something that we're supposed to appreciate and supposed to cherish and build on it accordingly. Right? If it is that you're just taking it for granted and just liking everybody because you just want to be liked, that could put you in trouble. As a matter of fact, that is in a way, it's a sort of a selfish way of thinking. You're just liking everybody so you can be liked. That is a selfish path to go on. And that also ends up in toxic relationships as well. If there was not proper foundation built from the ground going up. You just have to be very careful of that.
Yeah.
Marriage, friendship, no matter what.
And I think you have to teach people that too. You have to teach people that you give that respect to get respect as well. Like I have, like I said, most of my friends now, or who we interact with together as couples, they are married as well. So I don't encroach on their time. I know maybe weekend I wouldn't shout my partner because, hey, it's a Sunday, he probably with his wife. Or certain hours after after working hours. Like
Mhm.
you said, 6. I know someone like to cook, so he may be cooking for. I try not to make sure I don't approach him on their time. So they will also know, hey, on Sundays, Chris don't do tech as much, so I wouldn't really let to bother him on a Sunday or anything like that. So because they know, all right, that's my time. I may be hanging out with my wife, watching a movie, whatever. So you teach people how you want to be treated within that space as well. So the friends that are there within that relationship that you all share would respect what you all have. And that I think is so important, because if you don't teach people to respect that what you all have, they will just act as though, well, the person's still available as they were previously.
I think we can answer a different question in some ways, um based on where we heading. Because for example, right, the question you asked us was, do you think that your
The
significant
friends
other's
each person
friends,
had before marriage should become your friends or your spouse also, or should
right?
you all maintain
So
individual relationships?
that if you answer in that in particular, I don't think is a I don't see it as being a hard and fast line that it should be this way, it should be that way, because everybody is different, every relationship is different as well, right? Also, different people communicate differently. So, for example, um, my wife has friends that I'm really, really cool with, right? And we're really good, we really good. So I don't see it as being a line that needed to be drawn to say, well, you're my wife's friend saying that my friends, or saying that my relationship changed. Now there are people who that would have happened with, in terms of, for example, what Alice said. I have partners who single. um, I didn't have to cut them off because they automatically began to drift off. Now, my wife and I were together for like 6 years, more like 7 years before we got married. So during that period of courting, most of my single partners would have then either gotten married, gotten engaged, or
Yeah,
just
same. They did the
faded
same, yeah.
out, right?
Yeah,
And the ones who faded out, like as I would have said, I mean, in my song Harsh, but I don't really miss them because that stage of my life passed.
change, correct.
Right? There's nothing there that really and truly um, needs a rekindling, right? However, if I see them, if I bounce them up somewhere and we were good from way back when, and my wife was with me, I would introduce them, let them know this is my wife. And it's just like something like what Chris said, it's so they can know who's associated with me, right? Both ways. So in the event that they see her and she needs something, they know, hey, that's my kind of wife, right? Um, for me, I've never had the issue of having to keep partners at a distance, because to me, people, your friends know you, your friends know your relationship, your friends will also know the person that you're with. So they would not necessarily respect the boundary, I would say, because the boundary will be there, yes, as an automatic thing that you don't go chasing after your partner's girlfriend or wife or whatever, right? That should be unspoken law. But I think when it comes to if we should share friends, meaning if her friends should automatically become my friends, and if my friends should automatically become her friends, like Alessa said, that is up to the person. So, for example, I would have introduced it to my friends, all my friends, my circle that I would have kept. And when I say all my friends, and maybe people are saying, "Well, I never meet your wife." Um, I don't want to make it sound bad, but I would have introduced her to the circle of people I deem that would have been necessary to introduce her to now, meaning the ones who are actually friends, right?
Right.
There are people who you would know, you have spoken to a couple of times, but they're not your friends, right? Or you only talk on your bounce up, wherever you bounce up, other than that, you're not really friends. You don't have any relationship, right? So the ones that I valued as friends, I would have introduced her to. And some of them should have gotten really cool with. Some of them, I didn't expect them to be friends because their personality is very different. So like as I said, I just introduced them, and whatever happened with that because I know that they are adults. So if their personalities don't mesh, then I can expect them to be friends, and I can't force them to be friends neither. Right? I think, however, that similar to what both of you guys said, respecting your significant other's friends is important because she would have known them or he would have known them for a long period of time, way before you, whatever else. And respecting that they had a relationship, they had a friendship, that's fine. That person then has to also respect the role, play in her life, right? Um, that you are now the significant other, right? I think something that would have taken for granted. Significant meaning that your level of importance now supersedes everybody else's level of importance, right? So I think once
All
people
right.
understand that role, who you now play in her life or who she now plays in your life, that understanding needs to be known, because sometimes I've seen friends think that, oh, you're spending so much time with your wife, or you're spending so much time with your husband, come on, time with the boys, come on, time with the girls. But if the person, for example, for me, my wife is my best friend, so I really don't need to go out online with nobody no more, really, no, right? Because all the things I could say that I would probably go out and do, we do. So, for example, Friday gone, we had a barbecue and a little party here now. Just the two of us now, right? I was the DJ and the cook. She was the waitress and ting. It was nice. It was nice vibes. And we bounced up in the line, right? Now, even before COVID, we used to do the same stuff. So I can't say that I used to want to go out and line with other people much. Similar with her.
Right.
We found that we are really good friends at the same time. So, like Chris said, most of our friends who we still around are couples. So it's easy for us to filter into that environment and be comfortable because, you know, they are the same. It's like two friends amongst them, two friends. I think where things get tricky is if somebody demands of you that you have to like or have to be friends with their friends. I don't think that anybody should put that burden on another person, because in a natural setting,
Exactly.
we mightn't take, right? There are people who my wife knows who mean, I'm not saying it, but I'm just saying they may not really actually take to me because of my personality. And likewise, there are people that I know that she may not take to because of their personality, and vice versa. I can't go and say, well, here what? They need to be friends with me, right? It's a matter of choice. And if it's not a compatible friendship, I don't see it becoming one. And I don't think anybody should force somebody to be friends with that other person. If we're speaking about should you remain friends with your friends, right? That's a different story, right? Because if I have partners who single, chasing a different life, are they a healthy addition to my life at this stage? And what level of friendship should I continue having with them now is a different story. Now, my wife trusts me, but at the same time, do I want them, these friends who may have a different lifestyle, to push me around certain environments? No.
Correct.
Because if I know me going and hanging out with them is going to be me going and hanging out with 3 single guys, or 4 single guys, or 5 single guys that are looking for their significant other, right?
Or just
anybody,
women.
yeah, right. It's not going to be. It's not going to be smart for me to continuously put myself in that space where it's just that. You know what I mean? I know I can hold my own in that situation, but do I want to constantly be around that environment? No.
No.
You understand? I would prefer to be around guys who wife home, we chilling out, and we going back home. You know? I'll feel much better that way. And I think my spouse will feel much better that way. So I think most people need to understand that if we're speaking about the friends we should keep, should we then just cut off all our friends? No. We should be wise about who we maintain relationships with and who we let go. When I say let go, we don't push them away, but they will phase out because they will no longer feel comfortable around us and the conversations we want to have.
Correct.
Where we want to speak about, hey, you know what my wife told me today? And what they want to talk about is, you see that girl, right? Right? 2 different conversations. And to kind of build on that too, I saw someone ask a question. Question on that question. If you're able to see faults that your spouse is unable to see, how do you deal with that problem without harming your friendship, your friend's relationship, and your spouse relationship with you? So I think the question is really, if your spouse has a friend that is a toxic relationship, how do you help your spouse to see that without creating issues between you and your spouse and that friend and that kind of thing? You know, I think that's a really tricky, that kind of falls in line with what I was saying. Like, coming back to what Alice said early on, open conversations is needed in
That's
marriages.
right.
So if you can't go and tell your wife or your husband that that person was
Yeah,
real funny, yeah,
yeah, they kind of
then
stuff.
something wrong with the relationship, right?
Correct.
My wife has pulled me up on people that try to jump into our lives, and she was like, "Yo, that person looking suspect," and I would step back and watch. And if I see it, I'll be like, "Yo, yeah." If I don't see it one time, I'll ask my wife, "So what you see?" Because I want to see it because I trust her discernment, I trust her opinion, right? A lot of men, a lot of women put up this they think of it as them encroaching on their space. Like, yo, you can't tell me who to align with and who not align with. And I think if you put it in that way and say you can't align with that person, as opposed to saying, you ever observe that when things going bad at you, they're never around? If you bring up those things and let them see the qualities that they're missing out, because we mightn't see it. I think we can all admit that
Right.
we've been in relationships before where somebody is a leech and we don't notice because
Yeah,
we
blind
know
that
them for
into
so
them.
long and we just, that's just how he is, but that's just the kind of person he is. But then somebody make us realize that person just using it, and they begin to stop and think, you know what, probably is a good time for me to kind of give them a little distance and see what happens. But we need to be emotionally intelligent in how we approach that conversation, right?
True.
Something I've always said is don't ever bring up these kind of issues or real issues when you're upset, right? Bring them up as an actual conversation. Like, say, babe, let me talk about something now and talk about it. They'll be like, you don't watch the ways, eh? And they argue it, and then they say, and then friends you have. Nobody go and listen to that conversation because the
Yeah,
emotions high, the head hot, it's just gonna pass way over. So I think, like Alice keeps saying, we need to have those conversations and make it a regular part of a relationship. To sit down and say, here, babe, I was noticing this. Hey, on, what do you think about this? I noticed this person or that person or this situation, that situation, and talk about it. I think that's the healthiest way to really and truly get your significant other, your spouse or whatever else, to see what they're not seeing, or for you to actually probably, because I've had friends before that come off as very toxic, but they have issues that they're working through. And the role I play is a very, not very involved and engaged, but I'm there as their bounce off point, right? They come to me for advice, that kind of thing,
you're
but
sounding
I'm not
board.
invested in, yeah. And I know my role in that relationship. So when my wife would have come and said, that person just, they always have a negative kind of vibe now, like, you gotta be careful of that. And I was able to tell her, yeah, I know that. But I'm really just there. I don't really have that type of connection with them. I'm just there to bounce off when they have the issues. We'll talk. And I don't take it as a burden onto myself, right? We communicate and, they move forward. But to say that I have them in my space all the time, nah. But if you can't have that conversation, and it can't be real about the conversation, then you'll have issues.
Correct. And I completely agree with what you said, where the healthy way to approach it is having the conversation with your spouse.
Yep.
The thing is, people do approach these topics differently. I'm grateful that at this point in my life, I don't have that to deal with, because as we're older, we're able to discern the people in our lives early and know, well, all right, this person, I didn't have to speak that. You already get the vibe of from the start that person is thing. But even before, now I am not one to tiptoe around the tulips. I drop bombs. I let you know, hey, that person, deal with that before I deal with that. That was my I'll be like, listen, this person is X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and if they do that again, because I told you about it, I will have to be the one to deal with it. And I don't want that. So, like I said, but even though those times may not have been that way of handling it may not have been the best, sometimes you just kind of need to shake up people, because these signs literally slapping them in the face, but they're not taking it on.
Yeah.
And here what, the longer that you stay in that is actually disturbing our relationship. I need that to stop.
Very true.
Because either you deal with it or I deal with it. But like I said, I'm grateful now
Yeah.
this time in my life that I don't have to be there.
It's all about the stages, man. It's all about the
It's the
stages.
stages. It's about the stages.
Yeah.
So as you get older, people grow, people realize who they need in their life, what they need, and the right. Once you are actually growing in the right way, the wrong people, or I shouldn't say wrong, the people that was there for that time, that season, drop off, and those that are meant for your new energy, the new journey, that new path, tend to
Begin to come
show
in.
themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
Now, in
they
a
really do begin to show
kind of
themselves.
piggyback on this question, we had another question from another person inbox earlier that asked, on the flip side, what do you do when your friends try to drive a wedge into your relationship with a significant other? Right? Let's say, for example, because they gave a specific scenario, your girlfriends keep back talking your boyfriend or your husband. What do you do in that situation? If it is, and they gave two scenarios. One, if it is, they do it and they show it in front of him. And two, if they just say to you on the side alone, and you know, every time you go around, you're thinking about what they would have told you.
Now, this is where I always say the only third person to be in a relationship is God. Friends, especially if they're single, even if they're married, you as an adult, there are two things you need to do. One, you look for the validity in what they're saying. Is there some truth to that?
Yeah.
One. Secondly, if it's your friends and that banter continues, you are the one that actually supposed to pull them up and say, listen, respect this. This is what I'm working on with this person.
Yeah.
This is not your business. This is mine. So
Correct.
I am here developing this. You may not like him because you probably don't like Talime, or you don't like him because you find, oh, he's so strict, or you don't like him because to you he's controlling, when to you, the person in the relationship, you're just, doing nice things for your significant other, and they're seeing it as, well, how you like he's slave, so them kind of nonsense, right? They don't understand it because they're not in it. So yes, one or two things may jump out that, hey, maybe he did speak to me harsh in public in front of people and embarrass me. And, he may have been able to, and they can't take that one moment that he did something wrong
and put it all
shadow
over
the whole relationship that he was doing.
the whole relationship. Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So you do have to look at what they're saying, the truth in it. One, yes, nothing wrong with listening to your girls, whatever. Like I said, listening to the point of where, is it true, or are they just, some people are jealous.
What's the motive behind it as well, too?
They may be saying, well, I hope they break up so I can get him,
Exactly.
but you have
or
to.
before when we were all single.
Yeah, right? You have to draw your line at some point and say, look, you have to respect what I'm in, and you have to respect him as well. Yeah. Or the relationship that you have with them will just start to fray, and that will be the end of that. But it comes down to respect at the end of the day for what the person is in.
Correct.
And if they can't do that, then
and what is the motivation behind the person?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And like Alice, I kept saying, I think even in friendships, open dialogue is important. Because
Correct.
if you're really my friend and you're seeing something, I want you to tell me, but honestly tell me, give me information, tell me what you're seeing. Don't just say, well, me like Hina or me like Shina, boy. I can't stand you though. Why? Just see vibes.
Just the vibes. What is that?
Come on, give me something more than that.
Exactly.
Give me something more than that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because to me, if you're really my friend and you want me to have a healthy relationship, and not just be single, but have a healthy relationship, you will give me something to actually feed off of, to look for, to be wary of, to work with. Because if you want me to be successful in my relationship, whether it's this one or the next, I need to know where I went wrong, or where I'm going wrong, or where he's or she's going wrong. So I like how you put it across, Chris, that respect needs to be there. I mean, I've had friends who were in toxic relationships. Okay, we having conversations, so I'm gonna give a personal story instead. Right? I had a toxic relationship before where my entire circle would have stepped away from me, right? My friends, my boys. And that was because they were seeing what they were seeing. And I was like, nah, dog. Nah, I'm just saying that because I don't know why I see it now, but I'm not seeing it from my perspective. And nobody really had a conversation with me. They would just throw a word and then pull away. And I think if they had genuinely had a conversation, it would have been different because then I could have understood what you're actually seeing.
Saying correct.
You know what I mean? Because if you're just saying, right, we don't mean like she vibe now, boy. She have a heavy vibes. What is
I have you.
honestly a heavy vibes? Right? Because honestly, sometimes when some of your same friends come around here, they have a heavy vibes too. Right?
It's
just like, you understand? So I think we could save our friends a lot of trouble if we were to be conversational rather than just confrontational.
correct.
You know, you want to just say, boy, she coming, well, me coming now, boy. When they do that, I always had to watch and say, well, you see, you mean I invite you next time you go online. You know what I mean? And then we begin to have different shifts and where we could have had a good friendship and you could have helped me fix a relationship or actually get out of a relationship sooner. We both end up, you know, so like, I think from that perspective, from that side of things, if I have to get advice to fellas and to ladies who are friends and want to give advice, have open dialogue with your friends, right? Call them out, go and sit down and chill and have a conversation. One of the best, I think, relationship conversations I had was actually with Alistair when I came to the end of one relationship and I was really upset by the time I wasted in the last relationship. You know what I mean? And Alistair, we had a conversation and it wasn't just other people were saying, nah boy, forget that, get over that, like small thing. But what Alistair did was we went out, we sat down, I think it was bootleggers. We went out, we sat down, we shared a shandy. We not shared a shandy, but we had shandies separately.
Yeah.
Right? But make sure, you know, clarify. We sat down, we sat down, had a real brother moment where he spoke about his issues, his past, things that he overcame, and why it is I shouldn't let it affect me in the way of me getting bitter. You know, and I think I value that a lot more than people who are just saying, but I small thing, but forget that. Because they had no substance to what the advice was giving me. You know what I mean? So I think as friends in relationships, like as I kept saying, open dialogue is really important at every stage of our relationships. Somebody going through pressure and pain, don't just tell them, no, you'll get over that. Talk to them now, like actually have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have anything to say constructive, if you know you have another friend who went through something, they could appeal to that issue, have them come in and have the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Not everybody is open to all of that though. So you would know your friends and you'll know how to approach them, but don't just leave it at I don't like he, I don't like she, or don't worry about that, you'll get over that. That sometimes doesn't fix the problem.
Yeah.
The person will put on a mask and smile at you and be like, yeah man, all right, I good. And then go home and be in a different world. You know, be in depression, be in a dark place, and you know, be hurt. And men do that a lot.
This is another point, but that's actually another conversation.
Yeah. So I don't have any. I don't have any more questions. The last question I had was that one.
All right.
So we segue nice into each other.
Yeah. All right. That's great. And why I said that actually raises another conversation, because when we're talking about men dealing with certain issues and speaking to non-professionals, you're not speaking to psychiatrists or psychologists, anything like that. You're speaking to general friends. If you're going through certain levels of issues and I come to you and I say, hey boy, so X, Y, and Z happens, you have no idea what to tell me. Yeah. You're going to just say, well, boy, don't worry about that. You'll get over that. Working on vulnerability next week. All right. That may, maybe something that we can address.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start the live drop, I think.
So connection dip a little bit. I'm watching it here. We're still moving. But I think we may have to wrap up as you see it here, but that's not a problem.
Yeah, cool. Well, all right. Well, we are wrapping up. It was a long evening.
Yeah.
We do want to thank everyone that tuned in, that listened, that sent their questions, great questions.
Great ones, yeah.
You almost set us up here a little bit, people, but that's okay. We're here to tackle the hard questions, okay? All right, so next week, Tuesday, same time, 6:30 p.m., we're going to be a little vulnerable on that because as men, we don't share that side of ourselves enough.
Yeah.
So, do have a good night. It was a long one. Thank you for tuning in.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks,
And continue to share. All right.
All right, guys. Peace, love, stay safe, stay strong.